Well, I read today that the post office and post wants to move its office from the very historical GPO in O'Connell Street and move it to a high-rise building elsewhere in Dublin. The historical significance of the GPO is huge in Irish history. I remember when I was a teenager coming down to Dublin from Derry and seeing the Irish Tricolor flying above the GPO. My heart used to rise up, and I used to be so proud and so proud to be there and think of all the things that happened there. And also that Leo Varadkar today is talking about we have to reassess all the statues and paintings we have right in Ireland to see what is now so-called morally acceptable to him and his ilk, and what has to be destroyed and pulled down. Now, it does show in effect that Ireland is a victim of cultural colonialism, not just of London and political control from Brussels, but cultural imperialism, or the cultural control of America obviously predominates. Remember there years ago, Mary Harney talked about which axis are we on? Is it Boston or Berlin? Well, maybe our politics and our debt comes from Brussels, but a large percentage of our culture comes from the United States. And this whole thing about this Black Lives Matter and all this stuff about George Floyd, that is an issue which may worry in America, but it's really none of our business. And the issues of the police aren't going around shooting people of whatever colour in Ireland, are they? No, they're not. So the issues in Ireland are completely different. But it does bring up the importance of history. Now, in Ireland, when we look at our culture over the last hundreds of years, one, we've lost, to a large extent, we've lost the speaking of our Irish language. And as we know, Tirgan Anam is Tirgan Tanga is Tirgan Anam. A land without a language is a land without a soul. And we've passed up practice to some extent of our historical Catholic religion. And there was even talk recently in the last few years about erasing the requirement of teaching history in secondary schools. Now imagine, if you will, a man of 30 years of age who suddenly lost his memory. Now, from a loss of memory, what else does he lose? He loses the answer to questions: who am I? What am I doing here? Where am I from? What do I love? Who have I loved? To whom do I belong? The family? Have I got children? Have I got a wife? Have I got a family? Have I got a place to call home? And that was a dog. All these questions, once you take away a man's memory or a nation's history, it's not only is its past erased, but also its present is put into question, and its future goes off in a completely different direction. The history of a nation is like the memory of a man or a woman, and it gives us a sense of our place in history, the place of a nation, the importance of where we're from, where we belong, what our loves are. And so there was actually a writer, what's his name? Milano Kundera. He said, the first step in liquidating a people, said Herbal, is to erase its memory, destroy its books, its culture, its history. Then have somebody write new books, manufacture a new culture, invent a new history. Before long, the nation will begin to forget what it is, what it was, and what it was. So that's Milan Kundera in a book called The Book of Laughter and Forgetting. It basically points out the importance of history, not only a person, but in a nation. A nation's history is important. And George Orwell took up those themes. He famously brought up the point that He who controls the past controls the future, and who controls the present controls the past. And it's those in power now want to create or help create like what they call like a tabula rasa, or a blank slate of memory in our national consciousness, that we don't know who we are, we don't have a sense of a uniqueness ourselves as a people, and from that comes our sense of willing to control and decide our own destiny politically. And that's why they are happy that Ireland South is under Brussels control, culturally like a wing of the United States, and of course the North is politically controlled still by London. But George Orwell was a great English writer, and he wrote in his book 1984. Now 1984 was supposed to be a warning, not a kind of manual for the present, but he said in 1984, talked about the language of thought crimes and newspeak and falsifying the past to give those in control today more power. In 1984 he wrote, every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture has been repainted, every statue and building has been renamed, every date has been altered. The process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. And that aspect of the party is always right, that those currently in control are the ones who decide what history is taught in the schools, if any, what statues are to be erected in Ireland, and which statues, for example, are to be pulled down. And that's what the whole carry on is about at the minute. So the whole thing of them, it really brings up the issue of the importance of history to give a nation a sense of knowledge, who we are, a sense of common belonging and communal solidarity, basically a common consciousness of a people. That is the lowest common denominator to make a nation. Not only is it about a shared language, a shared history, a shared space in Ireland, but also the bare minimum for national self is common consciousness. And that is what they're hoping to erase when they want to pull down statues, when they want to pull down buildings, vacate the GPO, and stop the teaching of history in our schools. It's very dangerous. They are happy that the Irish people and Ireland itself become basically like a wet rock in the middle of Atlantic, in which we're all just consumers and producers for big multinationals and global, trans-global capital. They're happy at that. And all of it, of course, under Brussels control, of which the regional operator, Varadkar Co, the people who a few months ago wanted to celebrate the black and tans, that they are in charge. They dictate not only our past, but also our present and our future. So let's not let them do it. Let's bone up on our history, on our music, our language, our culture, our dance and our games, everything that makes Irish people and our culture unique and special. Don't let them do it to us. My name is Herman Kelly. I'm president of the Irish Freedom Party. Go to Margaret.